We welcome Nick Torre of Gators Online. And Nick, it's been a day at the University of Florida. Trevor Etienne, running back, brother of Travis, sophomore, member of Billy Napier's initial recruiting class at Florida, is in the portal. And you sent out a tweet after that came out that was rather eye-opening. And it's something that I even as I'd watched the Florida players go into the portal, I don't think I realized that half of Billy Napier's first recruiting class at Florida is now in the transfer portal.
Yeah, a lot of fans, mixed reviews on that one, Andy. A lot of fans pointing out to me that happens a lot with bump classes, and a lot of fans using that as just more kerosene to throw on the fire that they've already lit on the program. To me, it's when you look at that list, okay, 50% is eye opening. It's pretty shocking. When I look at it, like Kamari Wilson was a 5-star. He was the jewel of the class. Chris McClellan was playing a ton. Trevor Etienne and Caleb Douglas were starters. Outside of that, you're not losing a ton. I think it's really just the number. And what Florida is doing right now, or failing to do, I think, is winning the battle of perception. Yeah. And the perception is you're 11-14, and look at all these guys who bought in initially, jumping off the Titanic, as they see an iceberg coming at them.
Well, and the thing I keep coming back to is what the party line from Florida has been throughout all this is just wait until Billy Napier gets his guys in. Something like that blasts a little bit of a hole in that line of thinking.
Yeah, and the issue that I find is Florida was young in 2023. You can't spin that any other way. They were. It is a valid excuse, albeit an excuse. I don't think Florida fans are going to care to hear that they're young in 2024. And if you have this kind of attrition and this kind of, and it's happening everywhere, guys going in the transfer portal, but if you're losing your guys that are supposed to be your juniors now, your first class are supposed to be juniors, and well, shoot, we're going to be young again. I don't know that fans are ready to hear that or will accept that as an excuse in 2024.
Well, and the other part of it, I think that frustrates people is you look at Brian Kelly, hired the same year, won the SEC West his first year. They weren't as good this year, but they're going to have a guy win the Heisman. So it is there are these things that just continually frustrate this fan base, but what can Florida do at this point? I saw that Eugene Wilson III, Trey Wilson, who is their star freshman receiver, retweeted a graphic about who earned all freshman honors and said, just getting started in the swamp. So that is his way of saying, I think, hey, I ain't going anywhere.
I mean, my goodness, I might have hit the beat writer transfer portal this week if Trey Wilson would have tweeted something about, like, does someone know where compliance is on campus, instead of just getting started.
I got to give him a little something.
Yeah. There is a young nucleus. I think the 2023 class had a bunch of guys: Kelby Collins, TJ Searcy, Jordan Castell. Nobody played more snaps on defense than Jordan Castell, and just as a freshman safety. There is a young nucleus, and those guys will be young on paper, but a lot of them have played a bunch of snaps. So it'll be interesting to me to see. Florida, I think, really needs to hit the portal hard. We're seeing guys already land at places, and Florida hasn't even hosted anybody yet. So we saw them work slowly last year in the portal and thought, okay, well, you've gotten some good guys, but Florida's going to need some veterans, specifically on the offensive and defensive lines, to help them immediately in 24.
Well, and that's the interesting thing too, because one thing Billy Napier's always said is that this process takes time. He has advertised that his evaluation process is not the fastest. That's fine in a world in which these transfer rules don't exist, which was the world 4 years ago, but it's not the world now. And it feels like they're going to have to speed that up. And you're right. I did a segment at the beginning of the show where I predicted where people might go. I had 4 guys leaving SEC schools. I had 3 of them I was predicting to other SEC schools. Florida's not one of them, and not in the mix for any of them.
And the big one is we talked about it on Monday on you and JD's live show. Florida needs offensive line help,
Yeah.
specifically offensive tackle, and you're getting a couple guys, some guys from A&M go in, and there just needs to be more urgency. Like Florida's process is, I think, always going to, or Billy Napier's process is always going to make that spring portal kind of a wash because everything is crammed in and super fast in the spring. I just don't see the urgency, and maybe it's just the way that Florida works. Maybe when Florida talks to these guys in the transfer portal, they're saying, please don't report your offers. We had a crazy booster in Miami who kept throwing more money at everyone that we offered, and hey, don't report your visits because we want to keep that quiet. But I think it would behoove Florida to maybe move less quietly in the transfer portal. And maybe some of these fans would put their pitchforks down.
Well, and Jordan Seaton was a guy that DJ Lagway, who's the quarterback who's committed to sign with Florida in a couple of weeks. He was trying to work hard on Jordan Seaton, who's the number one offensive line prospect in the country. That's the sort of thing, the sort of player that Florida is now going after and getting some traction with some of these guys. That's one thing Billy Napier's brought that wasn't there before him. But Jordan Seaton's off to Colorado. And Florida wasn't in the list of finalists or the list of semifinalists.
Yeah, I think Florida gave it a run, got an official visit. I don't think we hadn't even really written about Jordan Seaton. I know fans kept asking about him, but I don't think Florida was, what do they say in politics, Andy? Like an also ran. I don't even think Jordan Seaton, I don't think Florida's really an also ran there. And I don't know how much a freshman would play. But that's the kind of guy, when I talk about the battles that Florida needs to win, that's LJ McCray. That's a guy that Georgia really wanted, and you got him. A guy like Jordan Seaton, even if you have to take some lumps in his freshman year, that's a guy that probably starts 3 years and it gets drafted in the first round. And we look at the transfer portal, you and I both said it's Dollar General for offensive linemen. It's not Neiman Marcus.
Chase Basanti is a guy who can start in the SEC. We know that. We saw that at Texas A&M. But I don't have the keys to the RPM yet. I don't get to do that quite yet. But I think he's going to LSU. So not Florida. But that's the type of person in the portal. If such a person pops in the portal, you gotta jump on. Now the other thing you were mentioning with this portal versus the spring portal. The other part of this is you can't take an SEC player out of the spring portal because of the way the SEC rules work. You got to take somebody who was in this portal window. So that's if you want to take someone who is from the SEC. Otherwise, you got to take somebody from another league. And I think that does increase the sense of urgency now.
Yeah, I think that's something that the SEC should change. I think they don't want to, be carnivorous towards each other.
They're not going to change it. They thought about changing. You know why they don't change it? Because it calms everything down. Because a lot of these guys don't want to go play in another league. So once this window ends, they don't leave. And as long as you can't be accused of colluding if everybody else has different rules than you. So they're sitting back going, "Hey, we get to chill out in the spring. You guys are all fighting for your players."
That's true. There's definitely never colluding or tampering going on with the transfer portal. Of course not. It's interesting though. I don't know where Florida is going to get momentum for this transfer portal cycle. I thought getting Graham Mertz back would be big. Obviously, you look at the quarterback hot board and those dominoes are starting to fall, but Florida can point to a guy who only has a year left or maybe only has 2 years left. Hey, we have a really good quarterback coming back. Here are some of the young pieces we have coming back. We're 1 or 2 guys away. We need you, Joe Smith, to come in and you can be that one piece. And that can be compelling. I just don't know what the sense of urgency is, or if maybe I'm being naive to expect anything different than what I saw last year.
And I will say this about Graham Mertz, not just because he came on the show yesterday, but we talked to Charles Power earlier today, and he made a great point. Those transfer portal QBs that have multiple years that wind up starting for 2 years at the new school, that second year tends to be pretty awesome. So I think, if you are Graham Mertz, that's something you're probably trying to get across to people who are candidates to come join you from the portal. If you're Billy Napier, that's something you would try to get across to those people. But I'm with you. I don't know where the momentum comes from now either, because the schedule's brutal and the talent level looks like it's going to remain flat or be less.
Yeah, there's a bunch of skill position guys that you can go after. But again, if Graham Mertz is running for his life, I don't know how much those skill position guys help you. I think it'll be interesting to see what these quarterback dominoes do, because I don't know that Florida's schedule is as hard as it looks on paper. A lot of name brands there,
Yeah.
But a lot of those
You're
name
accusing
brands
me
are
of scouting.
a lot of those name brands have lost their quarterbacks. But now, I mean, you could have Chase McCord starting at Miami instead of Tyler Van Dyke.
Yeah.
So Florida, I saw a list that JD put out on Wednesday, and I thought, man, all of the quarterbacks are going to schools that Florida will play next year.
JD had Riley Leonard going to Miami. I don't see that one. I see one of the air raid guys. Cam Ward, I said, needs to go to an air raid program, so he needs to go to USC, Miami, or Wisconsin. So that, again, this is why they don't give me the keys to the RPM, though. Because I'm like, he needs to go to one of these three instead of be like, he's going here.
Yeah, that would be the 33% going here. Yeah. Andy Staples special.
Well, it is going to be a very interesting time in Gainesville, because it's interesting. The fan base and the message boards have been negative for much of the year. This is as negative as I've seen them. And like you said, they got to find some momentum somewhere. So good luck to the Gators on that front. Nick Torre, thank you so much.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.